Good evening and welcome to the 6th annual Geekcentric Academy Awards preview show, presented by Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, television, gaming, toys and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Tonight, we will be discussing some of the biggest and most prestigious categories from the 97th Academy Awards, giving our thoughts and predictions regarding some of our favorite nominees. And now, on with the show. What's up, geeks? It's hard to believe, but it's already that time of year again where we take a look at all things Oscar-centric like only Geekcentric can. My name is Kev, and I will be your host for this evening. I guess you could say I'm a lot like the host for this year's Oscar telecast, Conan O'Brien. Except I'm not nearly as funny, or tall, or thin, and I definitely didn't go to Harvard. Okay, I'm nothing like Conan O'Brien, but I will do my best to lead our discussion and predictions from some of the night's biggest awards categories. Obviously, I can't do that alone, so why don't we turn to the red carpet, where my esteemed colleagues are exiting their limos and making their way through the swarm of flashing cameras and fashion-related questions. These gentlemen are definitely not complete unknowns, as their wicked opinions are the substance we need tonight. If their opinions are too brutal, just be thankful they're sharing them and not discussing them in a conclave behind closed doors. If I had a nickel for every time these boys spit straight facts about the movies, I could afford a trip to Perez, France. If they talk for too long, don't worry, I'm still here. I'm just so glad we're here for a Nora Predictions episode. Gentlemen, how we doing this evening?
A Nora prediction. A bit of a stretch there.
That was
that last one
stretch.
was there. We were weaving there pretty quickly. So you did a good
But
job.
I came back with how we doing.
Oh yeah. How we doing? Yeah, I think that is that the Brooklyn side or Bronx side
That's how we doing part 2.
Oh, I see. How we doing? Okay.
Dune. Oh, I remember that joke.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Nice. I mean, I want to thank the Academy for just giving us Kevin, this incredible host. Honestly, Kevin, when we're in Japan in April, you're gonna be just as nobody's gonna know the difference. You might as well be Conan O'Brien. You know what I mean? You're so tall.
You know, if I slapped a little orange hair dye in, I think I'd.
Where's you? I think we'd be able.
You got to
to
walk
do it.
like Sideshow Bob too, though, right? So.
Oh, yeah, sure. Just hope I don't step on any rakes.
That's it.
This year feels a little bit different than last year. Obviously, Barbenheimer was the talk of the entertainment world throughout the summer of 2023, and that discussion continued right up until the 2024 Academy Awards. The two movies earned a combined $2.2 billion at the box office and were wildly popular with fans and critics alike. This year, however, the leaders in nominations didn't quite become the phenomenon as Barbenheimer did. While they combined for 2 more total nominations than Barbenheimer last year, they only brought in a combined $40 million at the global box office. That was probably because no one I know liked Emilia Perez, and The Brutalist was so long that it got an intermission in theaters. But fear not, we will talk about both films in detail, as well as the other 8 nominees for Best Picture as we work our way through the program. While 13 nominations might seem to make Emilia Perez the forerunner to win a slew of awards at the big show, recent awards trends have made no particular film a favorite for any of the major awards, particularly Best Picture. Perez and The Brutalist took home their respective Best Picture awards at the Globes, while Conclave won at the Writers Guild Awards, and Anora won the honor at the Critics' Choice Awards. This may truly be a 4 or 5 horse race in what is perhaps the most unpredictable Best Picture race in years. With that said, it's time to delve into our favorite categories, 13 in total, and try our best to predict this year's winners. I have won the last 2 years with an impressive 12 of 13 correct guesses. Can I do what the Kansas City Chiefs failed to do and make it a three-peat? Or will one of my brilliant co-hosts take back the crown? No more wasting time, boys. Let's find out. We're going to start off with the nominees for Actress in a Supporting Role. For A Complete Unknown, Monica Barbaro. For Wicked, Ariana Grande. For The Brutalist, Felicity Jones. For Conclave, Isabella Rossellini. And for Emilia Perez, Zoe Saldana.
Kevin, I don't know about a football reference or anything. I'm just going to be the guy singing Mustard, like in the background there. That's going to be me.
Mustard?
That'll be
You're the mustard guy?
I'm the mustard guy. That'll be the
You
legacy
seem
I
like
leave
a
behind.
relish guy, though.
You know what? I
Oh
discovered.
my
I like
goodness! I
relish.
can't believe you brought up relish.
Recently, let me go. Hold on, let me talk about this for another half hour. No, let's talk about this this stacked category. So I think all the performance categories this year are absolutely stacked to the brim, and I think all of these wonderfully talented women in supporting actress are absolutely deserving of being here. I think Emilia Perez, say what you will about that film. I haven't seen it. I might leave one of you two to talk about it, but I've heard really good things about Zoe Saldana. So I think she definitely deserves to be here. I think it's interesting because in 3 of these films, and in the case of like Monica, Isabella, and Felicity, their characters, as much as I would have loved to have seen more of their performances in the films that they're in, it's interesting how all 3 of their characters really carry more weight in the fact, like in their absence in a certain way. I think with Felicity Jones, she's not even physically in the first half of The Brutalist, but her presence is felt, and she does such a good job of expressing that like almost like haunting persona when we do get to see her. For my favorite performance, I have to go with Ariana Grande as Glinda the Good Witch. I think it's not necessarily, she's not going to win, but I just, obviously everyone knew about her chops from a musical standpoint, but when it comes to her ability to become Glinda the Good Witch, there's now 3 Glindas in my mind, right? There's Billy Burke, the original. There's Kristen Chenoweth on stage, and now Ariana Grande is cemented as Glinda the Good Witch. And honestly, the moment that happened for me, there's a moment in the movie where she flops down on the bed, and it's just the most Glinda thing I've ever seen. But as far as who is going to win, I know Saldana is a front runner after winning the BAFTA, but I can't stop thinking about Felicity Jones in The Brutalist. I think, again, as I mentioned, she's not in half that movie, but the moments that we get with her are absolutely stunning. And I think it's my favorite performance that she's given since Rogue One, which is better than Solo, A Star Wars Story. But no, I think, I think she will take the Oscar this year. What do you guys think?
I think it's going to be Zoe Saldana. I think you're right. Felicity Jones does a great job with what she's given. Her presence is, not even in the first half, like you were mentioning. But like she's there. The narration of the letters and so on. She is there. You hear her and you feel her her presence, and I think that's that goes a long way for an actress. But yeah, I think it's going to be Zoe Saldana. Like she's been taking it at the other awards, and like you said, say what you will about Emilia Perez, I think she is the undeniable bright spot of the film. I think her performance, she's deeply committed to it. She brings emotional weight more so than some of the other characters around her that feel fake and phony. And I think that she added more weight to a story that really felt out of touch at times for its topic. And like, again, while the film itself has been divisively discussed, I think Saldana's portrayal is universally praised, making her the most deserving contender and deserving the most praise from this film. And I think beyond just delivering a grounded performance in those more quiet moments and whatnot, it's really where she embraces the film's theatricality. She's committing to those musical numbers. She brings the intensity with the emotions, and I think it just goes to show and prove her versatility as a performer. So I'm going with Zoe Saldana.
I'm right there with you, Just. I mean, Monica Barbaro probably has my favorite of these 5 performances. I just think she truly embodies what a supporting character needs to do. And in this case, I think Chalamet's Bob Dylan is at his best when he's on screen, either working with or almost being a little antagonistic towards her character. And so I think, again, she had my favorite performance of these 5. And I just want to say, I'm really not sure why Isabella Rossellini is here. I mean, I know that small screen time performances can sometimes get recognized, but this was such a nothing character and performance, unfortunately, from a terrific actress that I'm sure we could name 2 or 3 other performances from this year. You could have Elle Fanning from A Complete Unknown as well. be
Yeah.
in this category, and I would have preferred to see that. So a little disappointed with that choice, but no, Zoe Saldana has been on a roll, and I do agree with you, Just, that her performance helped elevate an otherwise terrible movie. Though I would question if she is a supporting role. She was kind of the main character, in my opinion.
I know. I know that it's Emilia Perez, and she is the main character, so therefore she is the actress. But like, you're absolutely right. The story runs her story runs so parallel to Emilia Perez's that it kind of feels like it's sort of like they're both sharing that lead actress role for the film. But that said, yeah, she is the standout from that movie.
100%. And that the whole is it a supporting or a leading role is something I might bring up again in our next category. But first, why don't we take a quick look at our first of the 10 Best Picture nominees. From producers Alex Coco, Samantha Kwan, and Sean Baker, Anora follows a young escort from Brooklyn who meets and impulsively marries the son of a Russian oligarch. Once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as his parents set out for New York to get the marriage annulled. All right, well, let's move right along to our next category. The nominees for Actor in a Supporting Role. Yuri Borisov for Anora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice.
Yeah, this category, it really does showcase a diverse range of performances. You have like Yuri Borisov's quiet, introverted portrayal of Igor in Anora, but then you have like Guy Pearce's boastful and at times grandiose theatrical personality in The Brutalist. And while I haven't seen everything in these categories, like I haven't seen the performances from Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice or Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown, I truly believe Kieran Culkin is the front runner for this Oscar in this category. I think his performance in A Real Pain has already earned significant recognition. What sets him apart from the rest of these performances is that authenticity and that relatability that I think people can identify with. And I think Culkin brings such a deep layered complexity to this character. And he's capturing like a nuance of someone who feels both tragic yet incredibly human at the same time. Like you can't help but feel sorry for him, but also love him. And I think that's a really hard thing to balance when you're acting, but he does it flawlessly. It just, the way he does it, it's just effortless and making it really impossible to ignore what he brought to this role. So I really do feel like he is the front runner to win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor.
You know what? I'm once again we're on the same page here. Just you mentioned this about the last category, Nate, and it's true here. It is true about all these acting categories, but this is just absolutely stacked with incredible performances. I loved every single one of them, and they're all deserving of recognition. I honestly wouldn't be upset if anybody won this. Jeremy Strong played unlikable so well. Like you said, Justin, Yuri Borisov was understated and adorable. Edward Norton was transformative in a role like I've never really seen him play, and Guy Pearce personified the era of The Brutalist perfectly. But Kieran Culkin, I think, will continue his incredible awards run. This guy is just winning everything for everything he's in. He's had a heck of a couple years. But again, this felt like a leading role. He literally shares the exact same amount of screen time as Jesse Eisenberg. So how can you be a supporting actor when you have the most screen time in a movie? That it's just another one of those kind of nitpicky things I have with the nomination itself, but he's absolutely deserving of the win.
I mean, we'll talk about Best Actor when we get there, but I'm almost really happy that he's in supporting. I think all of these performances are absolutely stellar this year from all of these actors, but I think that I'm kind of happy he is in Best Supporting in the group that he's with. And yeah, dude, I think Edward Norton, it's crazy. I turned to you when we were watching A Complete Unknown. I'm like, is that Edward Norton? Like during the first few scenes with him, I couldn't tell because, as you said, he was transformed. But no, it's Kieran Culkin all the way. He's my favorite, and he's the one that I'm gonna predict along with you guys. I think he absolutely deserves it. He crushed that role. He's absolutely phenomenal.
Well, it didn't take long. We are all on the same page here. So there will be no advantages gained by a correct or incorrect guess on that one. But no, that's one of the more obvious concise sort of predictions that I think we'll make on the show. But let's move on to our next nominee for Best Picture. From producers Trevor Matthews, Nick Gordon, Brian Young, Andrew Morrison, Andrew Lauren, DJ Guggenheim, and Brady Corbet, The Brutalist tells the story of a visionary architect and his wife who flee post-war Europe in 1947 to rebuild their legacy and witness the birth of modern United States, only for their lives to be changed forever by a mysterious, wealthy client. And now we're going to go in a completely different direction than a movie like The Brutalist and talk about our next category, which is for visual effects. The nominees are Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has been handing out the award for Best Visual Effects since 1980, where Alien actually won the very first award. So 45 years later, it's kind of cool that another Alien film has been nominated for the award. We've got 2 monkey movies here, including the 4th installment the Apes. Oh,
bro.
I always get that wrong. I always Heston that. Damn it. But no, it's the 4th installment for the rebooted Planet of the Apes franchise, and so far the franchise is 0 for 3, which is kind of a tragedy if you ask me. It's crazy that the amazing effects and motion capture work hasn't quite been celebrated as much as it should be. Historically, there has been one instance of a non-Best Picture nominee winning over Best Picture nominees, which was Ex Machina in 2015, which leads me to believe that Wicked or Dune Part 2 takes this over the other 3 movies, just based on history alone. And I'm inclined to believe that Dune gets a little love here. I'm not sure how many other nods it's going to get throughout the night. And so I think this is one of those few awards that it's going to take.
Yeah, I think it's with Dune. It's probably my favorite of the visual effects. I think it would be incredible to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes take it. I think Weta is just absolutely so incredibly talented at what they do. But I think for me, just as far as being my favorite and the one I'm also going to pick, Dune Part 2 is just one of those movies that, again, and I've said it a million times, I'm going to keep saying it, there are moments where I just have to like remind myself that I'm watching a movie, and it's not like it's something that exists. Like it looks like something that exists in the world, but between the cinematography and the visual effects. So for me, I am going to go with Dune Part 2 right alongside you, though it would be sick if Alien got it. Like that would be really cool, but no, I think it'll be Dune Part 2.
Yeah, no, I think that this is again another stacked category where it's really hard. Like it can really go to anyone, right? With Better Man, I haven't seen it, but the effect seems very centered around the main character being an ape, obviously, and I feel like this is more for the story purpose than it is driven by like actual visual effects. It's for the purpose of the story. Where something like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, they've achieved a lot. They pushed the boundaries of the visual effects. The whole cast was committed. They did months of ape school to really kind of get that motion capture down to bring about these expressive apes. And I think that's just, you see a blend of technical innovation and emotional storytelling that is just upon itself is new. But again, maybe how new is it? If you, like you said, Kevin, it's been 3-0 and it hasn't gotten anything. Have we seen enough of this marriage between performance capture and visual effects that a movie like this gets overlooked? But I do think Alien Romulus could be the one that takes it for best visual effects because of its return to practical effects. It's paying homage to the traditions. It's using the same team and the same visual effects team from the originals. And I think that what is to be celebrated about the Alien franchise and even just Alien Romulus is how the horror feels grounded and still impactful. It's terrifying and it's real. And I think that that's something that could really push this movie to being the Oscar winner for best visual effects, is sort of that commitment to those traditions. And I think it's something that's been very heavily celebrated about the film as being a success.
Personally, I'd love to see it. I'm all for not a complete shift back to practical effects, obviously, but a sort of resurgence of that sort of approach to filmmaking would be more than welcome in the slew of CGI that we get these days. So Justin's going for the upset there, which I very, very much like. I like the pick, and it'll be exciting to see who takes that on Oscar night. Let's move on to our next nominee for Best Picture. From producers Peter Jason, James Mangold, Alex Heineman, Bob Bookman, and Alan Gasmer, Jeff Rosen, Timothée Chalamet, and Fred Berger, A Complete Unknown takes us to 1961, where an unknown 19-year-old Bob Dylan arrives in New York City with his guitar and forges relationships with musical icons on his meteoric rise, culminating in a groundbreaking performance that reverberates around the world. And with that, we will move on to our next category, which is for Achievement in Cinematography. The nominees are Lou Crawley for The Brutalist, Greg Fraser for Dune Part 2, Paul Gilhelm for Amelia Perez, Ed Lachman for Maria, and Jaron Blask for Nosferatu. And very many apologies for any mispronunciations there. That was a tricky category. I've been dreading it all day.
You did good. You did good. That's a lot of Eastern Europeans by the sounds of how you pronounce some of those. Listen, I love this category. I always feel like there is some really great work that gets nominated. There's also some stuff that gets snubbed. And I gotta say, I am just shocked that Sayambu Muktipram from the cinematographer for Challengers was not nominated in this category. It's some of the most inventive and beautiful work you'll see this year, just in the way it captures the game of tennis, and it really puts you in it. And I just feel like he could have been nominated for this, and he might have actually won if he would. But that said, I think I haven't seen everything in here. The only movie that I haven't seen is Maria. But what I can tell from what I've seen from that and the other films that I was able to watch, everyone has brought their own special touch to these films that has helped elevated the stories and give a very unique visual language and help push the narrative forward. Greg Fraser has already won for Dune, and while I loved the look of Dune 2, I feel like he's just Duning it all over again. And I feel like other than a few tricks up his sleeve, like the infrared film technique, gives a very different look to the Harkonnen planet. I think at the end of the day, it's still the same Dune aesthetic that we know and love. But the two that I feel are really like standouts is, of course, Jaron Blask, if that's how you pronounced it. Blask, who worked on Nosferatu, that just stands out as being one of the best. The way the shadows are used, it's just so haunting. Like, darkness is so prominent in every single shot that, when light appears, it almost feels like it's rare and scarce at moments. Like, it's not often. This movie lives in the darkness. And I think the cinematography it's such a nod to the original, I believe it was in the 1922 film. And it's kind of taking what it did, but just capitalizing it on really pushing it with a more modern, fresh approach. But my pick for best cinematography is going to be Lowell Crawley for The Brutalist. The way they used the VistaVision film is absolutely remarkable. This is film that's shot in a horizontal, and this gives a wider scope to the picture, and with just incredible resolution. And I think the use of VistaVision, it captures the grand architecture, the expansive landscapes, the stunning angles with deep focus. It's just giving everything a sense of scale and grandeur. But what really makes it shine is how the same technique is used to make personal moments feel both intimate and larger than life. The wide shot highlights the vastness of the world, while the focused moments draw you in, making every scene feel both monumental and deeply personal at times. And the colors, my God, the colors in every shot were so rich. They were so vibrant and beautifully saturated. They pop off in a lot of instances. The whole cinematography just gives this film such a visual energy that stands out as being one of the best of the year. So my pick is The Brutalist for best cinematography.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Nosferatu and The Brutalist are at the top of this list. I think Nosferatu, that moment that you talked about, like with the blinding light, right? That contrast, and also just like when we get to those scenes, like I had to like wince my eyes a little bit because it's just like, oh, okay, we're
Yeah, 'cause
outside
you're
now.
in darkness all of a sudden. It's just like, oh,
It's a
God,
lot.
it's bright. Yeah.
It's a lot. And of course, the homage to the slow, like just the way that the camera slowly moves in so much of that movie, building that dread. It's fantastic because I don't think that movie is scary, but I think the word dread comes to mind quite a lot with that film, and I think that's a lot of what Jaron brought to it. But yeah, dude, The Brutalist is going to be my pick as well. I think again, it's that wonderful use of contrast. Like, I think to me, there's moments in that movie that go from warm to cold, and the way that they were able to capture that was so well done. And I also have to shout out the incredible, I mean, it's on the poster, but the shot of the Statue of Liberty, and just the way that that's captured and used to foreshadow some of those, kind of the overall theme of the movie, of the American dream slowly becoming the American myth. It's really cool. So I'm gonna go with is it Lol Crawley? Is that what we're saying? Yes. Okay. Not lol. Okay.
Lol. I just call him lol.
Yeah.
We'll find out on Oscar night when they announce that he wins, right?
There we
True.
go. I was going to say there are parts of the movie that lull a little bit, but that's not what we're here to discuss in this category. The visual style and elegance are one of the few things Maria had going for it. Mm-hmm. And so even if it's one of the weaker nominees here, it does belong. Nosferatu suffered in many ways from not being original enough, particularly from a standpoint, but that worked in its favor from a cinematography standpoint, as it was able to pay homage to the original film and German expressionism in general, while also featuring some breathtaking and wholly original shots. There's nothing remarkable about Emilia Perez, so this nod just feels like a chance to give it another undeserving nomination. But I think the sweeping, epic nature of The Brutalist and these shots that work so well with the music, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, it's just every scene looks and feels completely different from the last. And I think that helps to give it the edge over the also epically shot Dune Part 2. So we're all in agreement here. We're going with Lol Crawley for The Brutalist.
Yeah, it's that the stuff in that shot. Like, I'm sure you guys watched the stream too, right? Like, you rented it, so because unfortunately we couldn't see it in theaters because it's hard to see these movies in theaters. This was one movie that was like almost like scattered in very rare places. So I would have loved to have seen it in a theater, especially on a 70 mil projection, because TIFF did have it. It was just hard to get down there. But the digital transfer on that stream from, I think it was Amazon that I rented it, or Apple, I can't remember, but it was so sharp. The clarity is so crystal clear. You see the texture of the film. There's such a deep focus. Honestly, you don't lose any picture quality watching it digitally, and I applaud them for maintaining that quality from the film rendering to actually the digital stream.
Yeah, even just that scene where he's standing up working on the crane. And you feel like you're up there with him. Like, it was amazing. Yeah, I really appreciated that. And coming up now is another category, Just, that I know is very near and dear to your heart, and that is for achievement in film editing. The nominees are for Honora Sean Baker, for The Brutalist, David Jankso, for Conclave, Nick Emerson, for Emilia Perez, Juliet Welthing, and for Wicked, Myron Kirstein.
Well, look, starting off again here, Challengers love. Okay, I have to give a shout out to Marco Costa, the editor of that film. Much like the cinematography, the editing in Challengers is key to how you experience the game of tennis and experience the story. And I think the rhythm of the editing just mirrored the pacing and the intensity. But it's a shame that Marco is not nominated for this category. And I also just want to call out another film that's nominated for Best Picture that is not in this category as well, and that's for Nickel Boys, Nicholas Mansour. The way that film moves from character to character with its, as the director calls it, ascension perspective, its point of view or POV perspective, it's brilliant. I think Mansour uses such a great technique to blend that point of view aesthetic with archival footage that captures memories and moves us through time in such a way that feels like you are experiencing this story from all sides and all angles while still staying situated through the eyes of the character that's experiencing each moment. And I think that that's a masterful feat. So I think he should have been nominated here. But my choice, my pick for Best editing is going to be for The Brutalist. David Jankso, it's a standout for me. I think, again, we think a 3-hour and 20-minute film with an intermission, like while longer films are often criticized for lack of strong editing, I think this one is proof that a long runtime can be shaped and skillfully edited in a way that still feels like the pacing is perfect. I think it gave, again, both intimate moments, grand moments, and effortlessly, I think the story flowed. From an editing standpoint, you look at a 3-hour and 20-minute movie and it's like, oh, this is going to be long. And it was long, but it didn't feel long. Like I was able to actually enjoy it comfortably. Granted, I did have to pause during intermission and come back. But that said, I didn't feel like it was a trudge to get to that first half. It felt like suddenly I was like, oh, we're already here.
I would just like to clarify that it was actually 3 hours and 27 minutes without credits. So I'm gonna differ a little bit from you here, because once again, it seems to me that no one understands what editing means, as every film here is anywhere from 20 minutes to a full hour too long. But I will give The Brutalist credit for putting in the intermission. Like, recognize what you're doing here. It's such a cool old school type of thing, and I think movies over that 2:20, 2.5 hour mark, having an intermission. We talked about this a couple weeks ago with some fellow podcasters, how movies would benefit. Audiences
100%,
would probably be more willing to go to see these longer movies. You wouldn't worry about running off to the bathroom or whatever. Concessions would sell more. Everybody wins here.
In Europe, it's a big thing.
It's a massive thing. It's, they do so many things with their theaters well over there, right? I have so many friends that enjoy the cinema packages and things like the intermission. But yeah, I digress. I won't complain too long, because for a 3-hour and 27-minute long movie, The Brutalist moves at a much quicker pace than a similarly long movie like Killers of the Flower Moon did last year.
Christ,
that one dragged. But now a movie that, in a different way, felt very quick and fun and well-paced, in my opinion, was Anora, which I could see maybe pulling some sort of quote-unquote upset in a certain category like this, kind of like Argo did back in 2013. Like that middle section of this movie was maybe the most fun I had watching any of the nominated films. But I think the ability to make what in real life would be a very unexciting anonymous voting process, to make that as exciting as it was and as tense and thrilling as it was, I'm giving the edge here to Conclave.
Oh, so Conclave's your pick for best editing then?
It is indeed.
Wow. I think Anora definitely moves when it needs to. There's a bit of a chunk of the film that, Justin, I know you've talked about with me before, that didn't fully hit for you. But I think even within that middle section of the movie, the way that those individual sequences are edited together is really well done. But I think I'm also going to go with The Brutalist. There are, and I mean, part of this is from the direction as well, but there are shots in that movie where they take their time. They let the camera linger. They let it hold. And then they sort of do this amazing thing where they just quickly cut, like so fast, so sharp. And I think it adds to a lot of the elements of that movie. Again, that feeling of hope into just absolute desolate trauma so quickly. And I think that's really, really strong. And I was also very happy for that intermission because I had to use the washroom. But it's funny because I did the exact same thing, Justin. I paused it and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get as close to the theater experience as possible, because when you're streaming it, it's not a 15-minute intermission. So I was like, I'm going to pause it. I set my timer for 15 minutes and I got a snack. I talked to my parents for a minute and then I came back and watched the rest of the movie. So I'm definitely going to give it to The Brutalist. I think I think that the Oscars aren't afraid to give this to a longer film. Oppenheimer won for editing, so I think it just kind of goes to show that it's not something to be worried about in terms of that length. And I think if anything, it's like, what a huge undertaking to take that on, and it only, again, even that mirrors the experience of the main character in this film. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but let me ask you, if you're going to watch a 3+ hour movie again, is it going to be Brutalist or Oppenheimer?
I've watched Oppenheimer numerous times already.
Yeah.
So
You guys will never watch The Brutalist again.
I will watch The Brutalist again, but I think I feel more comfortable about the idea of watching the first half and maybe coming back and watching the second half after. I feel like I'll come back to The Brutalist for maybe moments and shots, but yeah, maybe to sit down and fully watch it. You might be right.
I probably won't. I'll watch them maybe one day, but not for a very long time. Like, honestly, it might be an anniversary screening or something like that. Then I'll check them out.
Yeah, next time I want to see it is in theater.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good call.
You'll revisit it in like 10 years.
When the Sinister opens back up, that's when we'll see it.
if Doug Ford lets it. But yeah, let's move on to the correct choice from the last category, which is our next nominee for Best Picture, from producers Tessa Ross, Juliet Howell, Michael Jackman, Alice Dawson, and Robert Harris. Conclave examines what happens when Cardinal Lawrence is tasked with leading one of the world's most secretive and ancient events, selecting a new pope. He finds himself at the center of a web of conspiracies and intrigue that could shake the very foundation of the Catholic Church. We're now going to move on to what I am positive is one of Nate's favorite awards of the evening, and that is for achievement, the Best Original Score. The nominees are, for The Brutalist, Daniel Blumberg; for Conclave, Volker Bertelmann; for Emilia Perez, Clement Ducol and Camille; for Wicked, John Powell and Stephen Schwartz; and for The Wild Robot, Chris Bowers.
Yeah, this was... I do think this was another really stacked category. I think it's interesting with someone. I was talking to you, Justin, about Wicked, and I was like, does it make sense that it's here? I went back, I looked up a few sections of music from Wicked, and I think it's tricky because you're working within a musical, and you have to make the music that goes in between all the songs that people want to hear. And I do think John Powell was able to take some really cool elements of what Stephen Schwartz did with the original songs and blend them really well. And even some of the original songs from the original film, like Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, there's a motif that you can hear at the beginning of No One Mourns the Wicked. And it's just the way that I think John Powell added to was really good. But, there might be some other people that, you might sub in here for John Powell. But
yeah, I mean, if Hans Zimmer is disqualified for using too much music from the first Dune,
sure,
then how is a movie based on a Broadway musical, the score of that? How is that? It's just, nope, it's out of the question for me. Disqualified.
No, I think there's this, like, again, when we're translating and adapting from a musical into, yes, there is those songs, but
it's not best adapted score, it's best original score.
Right, but the score is original in relation to the songs that are there, right? Like the songs that are there, it's, as Nate said, you got to have something that's going to, from the cinematic purposes, weave us to the next musical number, and those are those, like, those intricate sort of other moments that they need to fill in and maybe adopt or look at what the music has to kind of bring to life in those moments. And I trust me, I don't think it's going to win, but I understand why it's there, because I think if Emilia Perez was in this, right? And is it in this category?
It is, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. So, like, and to me, it's like, so we're looking at the non-musical parts of that as well, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Like, I imagine that's what it's.
Yeah, because it's nominated for 2 Best Original Songs on top of the score, yeah.
Right. So that, that makes sense. And obviously Wicked wouldn't be considered Best Original Song because it's not an original. So I think it makes sense why this category and why they're in this category, even for both of those films, just given the fact that we need something to take us from each musical number.
Well, taking us from moment to moment, I think, is also handled excellently in Conclave. I think the string section is so powerful in this movie. There's just this like plucking that goes on that they utilize to get louder and louder as Cardinal Lawrence is digging deeper and deeper into this mystery of what's going on. What's going on behind this decision. And I think it just adds so much to the beautiful shots in that film. But as much as I love what Volker Betterman did with Conclave, I am going to go with Daniel Blumberg for who's going to take gold. I think he did such a good job drawing comparisons sonically between the idea of like brutalist architecture design, right? It's all big and massive, but also very sharp and square,
yeah.
and right and hard, and I think that he does such a good job of sort of giving us this music that matches the tone and the themes of the film so well. I think the string section, I'm going to bring up that shot of the Statue of Liberty, and how, seeing that turn upside down, the way that the string section is used to draw you in. But then this is part of the editing too, it cuts right into that quiet, very soft piano moment that almost feels like chaos into freedom, which is, again, that scene. And I think that's my favorite thing with scores, is when they can help to not just add to what we're seeing on screen, but also be a part of that storytelling. And so absolutely, I think the highlight of calm and warm moments, and again, that contrast that he uses is so good. And even just the use of like clinks and clanks, and it almost sounds like they're like hitting things on a construction site in some of these parts of these songs. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Daniel Blumberg as my pick for who's getting the Oscar for Best Original Score.
Yeah, I'm with you, bud. I'm picking Daniel Blumberg as well for The Brutalist. I think his score just it's the right balance of light and depth. It helps to highlight both the uplifting and the tense scenes without overshadowing the story. And I think that's what you have to do, is balance that music with the storytelling in a way that feels purposeful. And the way the music builds to the emotional moments and really adds to the impact of the film. I think this is a score that feels such a perfect companion to the film. There's just such a great marriage between the two. So yeah, I'm going with Daniel Blumberg for Best Original Score.
Listen, as long as Amelia Perez doesn't win anything outside of supporting actress,
I'm happy. Selected one category.
I know, and I'm fine with Saldana. As long as nothing else wins, I'm happy. Though I still question the originality of a score from a Broadway musical. But anyways, Wild Robot's beautiful score matches the beautiful tone and visuals of the movie, while Conclave's mysterious slinking tones match that of the movie's tension. However, what Blumberg did, he just did such a masterful job matching the tone of the movie and its brutalist design aesthetic with what he called slabs of sound. He himself called it that. You perfectly described that, Nate. And so I think Brutalist will and deserves to win, though I'd quickly like to shout out Umberto Smorelli for his score for A Different Man, which I was humming for days after. So that was maybe my favorite score of all the nominated films. But no, Brutalist, I think, is going to get the win. So that's another resounding sweep of a category by the three of us.
And I haven't even heard it, but just on Justin's behalf, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
Oh my God, yes. Another category where the challengers gets no love.
Why aren't they there instead of Amelia Perez?
Yeah, they should have been there instead. Or Wicked. Any of those two. Sure, if you wanted to get rid of them and throw challengers in there, I 100% agree with that. Thank you for reminding me to call out how shit that is. Like, they won Best Original Score at the Golden Globes, but they don't even get nominated. Yeah. I'm sorry. You can do that to Hans Zimmer, who is just recycling what he did in Dune Part 1 and, bringing something new. But Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, what are you saying? Like, oh, we know that they're already good. We don't need to give them another Oscar for what was probably some of the most inventive and tense. We talk about the marriage of music and the movie, and you watch that movie, you get that tone and that vibe, and you just think, well, damn, this music is just a perfect replica of that, right? So it's really unfortunate that they weren't at least nominated and recognized. They didn't have to win, but just be nominated in this category would have been great.
I know people who aren't even film score fans who have shouted out that album or downloaded or talked about that album, and I'm mad that I haven't seen it yet. I gotta watch that movie.
It's fucking great.
I honestly don't know what your problem is. Trent Reznor won already. It's not like the Academy gives multiple nominations to people. It's not like John Williams got nominated for Dial of Destiny or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You're proving.
No, I'm right with you there. Don't worry. Because I unfortunately haven't seen challengers.
You gotta watch it.
But from everything I've heard and clips of the music and clips of the editing that you've talked about, I don't understand. I want to ask, why didn't this get nominated for anything when just 2 months ago it was like it's gonna win awards, let alone get nominated? It seems like the biggest overall snub of this awards year.
I really don't know, because it feels like it's just been blacklisted, and it did deserve to be in some of these categories. But we'll never know. We'll never know.
Yes, because we don't talk about challengers. So, all right. With that, why don't we move on to our next nominee for Best Picture? From producers Mary Parent, Cale Boyder, Patrick McCormick, Tanya Lapointe, and Denis Villeneuve, Dune Part 2 sees Paul Atreides unite with the Fremen while on a warpath of revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the universe, he endeavors to prevent a terrible future.
We've already moved past best score, Justin.
No, but you beat Nate to it. You know he was going to do it. Everybody who's listened to anything, anytime we've talked about Dune, you knew Nate was going to do it. So
He likes to throat
but we've been kind of on a roll of each of our favorite categories, and that's no different here as we get into the screenplay categories, which are always my absolute favorite. Before I get a little bit more into that, let's look at the nominees for Best Original Screenplay. For Anora, Sean Baker. For The Brutalist, Brady Corbet and Mona Fastfold. For A Real Pain, Jesse Eisenberg. For September 5, Moritz Binder, Tim Felbaum, and co-written by Alex David. And for The Substance, Coralie Farge. My favorite nominated films of the year often find themselves in the Best Original Screenplay category. In the last 10 to 15 years, that includes films such as The Holdovers, The Trial of the Chicago 7, Green Book, I know, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Midnight in Paris, and Inglourious Bastards. That is once again the case here, as three of my favorite films of all the nominated contenders were Anora, A Real Pain, and September 5. Or September 5th. It doesn't have the TH. I'm never sure how to pronounce that or address it. The amazing behind-the-scenes look at the live television production of coverage of an international tragedy in September 5 was riveting, tense, and somehow a lot of fun. A Real Pain was brilliant in that you simultaneously disliked, yet felt extreme pity for its two main characters. The other contenders are no slouches either. The Substance is one of the most unique, for better and sometimes worse, Best Picture nominees of all time, and the fact that a film of its ilk could somehow manage its way into the Academy Awards picture at all is remarkable, which is due in no small part to the wildly imaginative writing. The Brutalist continues its theme of a sweeping epic nature. I'm starting to wonder if making a movie that's over 3.5 hours might be the ticket to Oscar success after all. And yet it's the story of an escort, don't you dare call her a hooker, with a heart that isn't quite gold, who brings us into her whirlwind series of escapades that captured the hearts and souls of viewers everywhere. It's a tremendous feat that will deservedly bring home this award for Anora.
Yeah, I think for Best Original Screenplay, Anora has a real shot at taking it. I think the script stands out as, it's very focused on the character development, and it uses very sharp dialogue that really pulls you into the movie. But I also think that, again, like it's like The Brutalist, it's one to consider. The screenplay does an incredible job of just blending those grand and epic moments that with sort of deep personal narrative moments as well. Like it's just we're really focusing on that character development, and I think it's a completely original and creative story. Like it's very well handled in the way that there's that layering of obviously as an architect, the Brutalist architect style, and that finding its way in sort of small thematical elements, and as well as very obvious elements, and from a visual standpoint, but from the writing standpoint, it really does hit home that mentality. But I wonder if the controversy around some of the stuff that's been talked about with it using AI to enhance its accents and voice dialogue might have a negative spin on some people for this category. I know it might not necessarily feel like writing is really related to it. It could have a negative effect in all of the other categories. But that said, I think you're right, Kev. I think ultimately, I think Anora is my pick as well for Best Original Screenplay. And I think it's very likely that Sean Baker could win for that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys. A Real Pain was one of those movies that from start to finish, I just sat there and I was smiling and I was tearing up and I was feeling all the things. And a lot of that comes from the performance, but a lot of it comes from the writing and the story. but it is Honora that is there. Honora's going to take it. I think it makes sense for Honora to get some love here, and I think it's very. There were a lot of decisions made with that movie from a writing standpoint that, as an audience member, it challenges you, right? You sit there and you sort of think, oh, I don't want that to happen, or I wouldn't have made that call personally. But you sit there, you think about it, and you actually study the movie a little bit more, and it turns out that it actually is for the better, and it leads to a better story and better performances overall. So I'm going to go with Honora.
Just on that note too of Honora, like it was one thing that I kind of felt was a little strange about how the movie was structured. We have this very traditional sort of structure up the front where they're, falling in love and they're getting to know each other and they're doing all the romantic stuff. And then, as Nate had pointed out earlier, like we get to that lull when, things go crazy, and then it's just suddenly like we're sort of static in that house. And then we start going on this, like, where is Ivan adventure? And it's almost like it was written as two different film parts smashed together, because the tone of the first half of the movie to the second half feels very they feel very different from each other. But that said, it is really driven by how you can really write great characters that people can connect with and kind of understand and relate to. And I think that's kind of the highlight of this. It's a very character focused screenplay.
Yeah, you really want to see these characters, or at least Honora, succeed. You really want to see her succeed. And a big part of that comes from her performance, but then the other massive part of that comes from how the character's written. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we move on to the nominees for Adapted Screenplay? For A Complete Unknown, James Mangold and Jay Cox. For Conclave, Peter Strawn. For Emilia Perez, Jacques Audiard, in collaboration with Thomas Bidegain, Leah Maisius, and Nicholas Levecchi. For Nickel Boys, Ramel Ross and Jocelyn Barnes. And for Sing Sing, screenplay by Clint Bentley, Greg Quidar, Clarence Macklin, and John Divine G. Whitfield. So this is the other category that piques my interest most every Oscar night. Again, some of my favorite films of the year find themselves in this category, often winning, including such nominees and or winners as Jojo Rabbit, The Big Short, Argo, Moneyball, and The Social Network. Now to look at the nominees for this year, I personally think one of the biggest faults of Nickel Boys was in its adaptation from award-winning novel to film, and the twist ending comes off more confusing than surprising. It ruins what is otherwise a very unique story. I don't think A Complete Unknown is a unique enough biopic to deserve the win either. It's competent enough in creating a compelling, if not formulaic, film that surpasses other recent efforts in the genre, such as Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocketman. But personally, I'd like to see Sing Sing pull off the upset here. It does such a good job of taking its based on a true story roots and creating a film that almost feels more like a documentary than a staged movie. And with so many Oscar nominees this year leaving the viewer feeling somewhat worse than they did before watching the movie, Sing Sing was one of the few that managed to uplift the viewer by the end. That said, I think the engaging nature of Conclave, which is a film that benefited the most from its incredible cast doing a terrific job of bringing the words to life off the page, that'll result in another win for the papacy-based drama.
Yeah, it's funny. I only learned what papacy meant through watching that movie. I just watched Sing Sing before we started this recording, and I cried my eyeballs out, Kevin. Like, they're on the floor. Like, my room is full of tears right now.
I knew that one would get you.
Oh my gosh, dude! It is so. It's the feelings from that movie. It is so emotional the entire ride through, and exactly what you said, dude. For them to be able to take a movie. And yes, a lot of this comes from the performances, but a lot of it also just comes from the writing and the adaptation here to make it feel like it's a documentary. In fact, to the point where when I saw the trailers for that movie, I thought it was a documentary. I wasn't sure. I'm like, oh, Coleman Domingo's in there for some reason, but the coolest part about that movie is that it is kind of there are elements to it that are part of being a documentary, which is really neat. So you know what? I'm actually going to go with Sing Sing. I think I'm gonna challenge that a little bit here. I think Nickel Boys will probably take it, but my official vote, I'm going to give it to Sing Sing, although I do really want to see Nickel Boys because, Justin, you were saying that it is absolutely excellent.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it's going to win for best adapted screenplay. I think Nickel Boys, written by Remmel Ross. I really enjoyed how, even this film being adapted from a book by, I believe it's Colson Whitehead, which I haven't read. It takes it and it goes in its own direction. I think the whole point of this film is to bring about powerful themes, talk about trauma, systemic racism. It's all at the forefront, and I think the story is engaging and accessible to a wider audience. It's from a perspective that is not yet really seen, and literally from the perspective of a first person point of view, which again is an aesthetical choice, but it really does help hit home some of those personal moments and those really frightening moments. I think the characters feel real. You can relate to them. And the way the script is written for you to experience the tough moments while also experiencing the moments of hope, I think it's just a great example of how an adaptation can stay true to what its source material is meant to do, but while it's adding something new to the experience of it through film. And I think that's sort of what this adaptation did. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Nickel Boys for this one, and I'm pretty sure you guys will probably get it, but we'll see.
I just can't give it to Nickel Boys because of the ending. I think the way they tried to tell the twist, and I don't want to give it away. People should go and see it and experience it for themselves. I really do think so. I just think because I myself haven't read the book either, Justin, but I read up on it afterwards because I was honestly left a little confused by what had happened at the end. And in reading summaries and descriptions of the novel, the big twist sort of ending makes so much more sense the way it's presented in the book. And so they changed sort of the order that you learn some of the things about these characters, and I think it made it far more powerful in that regard. And so they kind of just lost me in what they were trying to do at the end, and that's where I dock a few points, unfortunately, but otherwise it's hands down one of the bravest, most challenging, like unique movies because of, like you said, the perspective that it tells this story. It puts you in these awful, awful shoes and really makes you feel what these characters feel. And so I wouldn't be upset with any of the three that we mentioned here winning, either Conclave, Sing Sing, or Nickel Boys. Not my usual fun, peppy sort of, comedy spin that I usually like to see win these writing awards. These were far more grounded and real and heavy movies, but they're all amazing in their own right.
But if Amelia Perez wins, you're gonna Kool-Aid Man out the window? Is that what's gonna
I will never watch the Oscars again if it wins for best writing. Oh, they will have tarnished one of my true joys in life. Oh, speaking of that shitty movie, why don't we move to our next nominee for Best Picture? From producers Jacques Audiard, Pascal Cousteau, Valerie Sherman, and Anthony Vaccarello, Amelia Perez follows three remarkable women in Mexico, each pursuing their own happiness. Cartel leader Amelia enlists underappreciated lawyer Rita to help fake her death so that she can finally live authentically as her true self. And now we'll move to things that make me a little bit happier, a lot happier, and those are the nominees for Best Animated Feature Film. The nominees are Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot.
Yeah, I think the animated category, I mean, it's like our favorite. Like, it's my favorite. I don't know.
It's my favorite.
Right?
It's just as important as Best Picture in my mind.
Right?
But it's weird. This category feels so diverse this time, right?
For sure.
There's only one Pixar Disney type film. Yeah. And then you have Wild Robot, but then everything else feels very fresh and new for the category. And I wonder if it's the Academy doing more reach in terms of understanding what makes animation, right? Not just looking at kids' movies, but
I think I think it is interesting to sort of see. I'm so happy that a movie like Flow is here. I really enjoyed that, my time with that movie. Wallace and Gromit, I think, is a choice more on technical level than it is on maybe the story. I think technically, obviously Aardman is just they're masters at the stop motion stuff. So I think that might be why they're here. But
I love how you described it the other day. You're
Yeah.
like, have you seen Wallace and Gromit before? Okay, yeah, then you've seen this movie, right?
That's what it is. If you think in your head, think of a Wallace and Gromit movie. Cool, you just watched it. So obviously, I'm not too pumped on that one, but I think from a technical standpoint, I think they deserve to be there. I think from a technical standpoint, Pixar deserves to be there, but I think they're also such masters at their storytelling and the way that they're able to creatively bring in new tools, both visually and also in their writing, that just works so well. They're so good at just getting to a broader audience and really connecting with so many people. That's just like we've said it a billion million times, so I don't know why I'm saying it again. But I will say, I think we're gonna see the case of, like, you know how people like hate on whatever, they hate on PlayStation 5 if it sells more than Xbox, or they hate on Apple because they're selling more iPhones than Android or whatever, right? I think there is going to be sort of this like popular kid syndrome with Inside Out 2, so I don't think it is going to win. I do think, and I still, listen, despite my problems with the movie, if you go back and listen to our review, I still really enjoyed my time with the winner of this category, and that's The Wild Robot. I think the cast, the music, and especially the animation was so gorgeous. Say what you will about the writing and the pacing, that didn't fully work for me and didn't trust the audiences that they're supposed to be trusting. I think the animation is just, it took what was in those books, like at least on the covers, and made them move, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. So that'll be my pick, yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, like, The Wild Robot definitely has a shot. I think the film's unique animation style, along with the heartfelt story, really stands out, and I think that's going to have a lot of people gravitating towards it. It offers something new in terms of the look and feel of animation, but it also feels very conventional and relatable for the genre of animation with its story. So I think, like, and we've talked about that in great detail, so we won't go any further. But I'm going the opposite, though. I am going to go with flow. I haven't seen the film.
Ooh.
I will watch the film and I will think, but because that this film is getting so much buzz and praise that it's been receiving for its animation, I think it's very likely to take the award home. I think the excitement that everyone has around this film, I think it's clear that audiences and critics alike are very connected with it. So yeah, if people love flow and there's been a lot of talk about it, I think that this one has the momentum to win, and that's my pick for the category. Flow.
I would love that. Love that.
I'm gonna just offer, like, I think you're right. Like, I think it's probably between those two, because maybe the perspective now is the technical, right? Is understanding. I'm hoping, at least, because at least that's what I always think about, is how that marriage of technique and story, the animation and the story, are married together. And I think the from what I've seen about Flow, it's very much about that.
In honor of Flow, maybe I just won't say anything about it. But no, in reality, when you sort of delve into the background of the movie to find out that it was just 20 animators using a program that's free on the internet to create it, it's an incredible achievement. But I do think, Nate, you described it really well in that it's basically just an extended video game cut sequence.
It is.
And so I think narratively it falls a little short. Not much happens over the course of an hour and 20 minutes. Even though lots of things are happening, not much really happens. And so I think I respect it for what it did, how it did it, and the achievement that it made. But I need a little bit more narrative structure in my movies going the long way. So Wallace and Gromit, is a little bit derivative of previous works, and I think that goes against Inside Out 2 for me. It's a bit too similar to the first outing, that there's not enough new ground being broken. It does what it does very well, but I've seen that. I think the most unique movie here is definitely Memoir of a Snail. It caught me off guard. I didn't know what to expect, as I didn't watch any trailers, and by the end of it, I found myself smiling and really loved it. And I thought it was a beautiful movie, despite being a very unattractive movie intentionally, and so I think that worked well. But in terms of that narrative strength and like pulling at my heartstrings, Wild Robot took it for me. I loved this movie, and I'm giving it my pick to win the award.
Nice.
Why don't we move on to our next nominee for Best Picture, from producers Maria Carlotto Bruno, Rodrigo Teixeira, and Martin de Clermont Tonenero. What a name. I'm Still Here chronicles the tale of a mother who is forced to reinvent herself when her family's life is shattered by an act of arbitrary violence during the tightening grip of a military dictatorship in Brazil, 1971. I will just go on record to say this was the only non-documentary film that I was not able to watch before we recorded this podcast. Academy, get your stuff together. Get these movies out earlier. Let people see them. Not everybody can get to a theater. Not everybody can get to a small independent theater in one of 2 locations in the entire GTA to see movies. And so
that's just it. That's it.
You know, let us get out. Let us have a chance to choose to say, I'll pay the $20. You'll make more money than you would for me buying a ticket in a theater, and let me watch these movies before the show.
I definitely understand that it's really up to the theaters too to want to like buy and screen those movies in more locations. But like when you look and we have 2 theaters that are within 10 minutes of our location that we could get to, and if those movies were playing more regularly there, I think we would have seen most of them. However, it's most of these are just scattered in like an hour and a half away from us, or an hour away, or 45 minutes, and it's like making that time to do that, it starts to eat into it. So yeah, like I think that there should be like an Academy app or something like that just has all these movies that you can rent them, or you can do something, or partner with streaming services like Apple you can show them all, people can rent them, they can buy a bundle. I don't know, there's a lot of solutions that could be easily solved for getting these movies in front of people so that they can see, because as much as it is important for critics and the Academy to see these movies and vote on them, audiences want to be also a part of that experience and understand. So if they haven't seen that movie, give them the opportunity to see it so that they can be prepared for that award show.
What a great idea with an app, sorry, just really quick, to have it act where it's like the streaming sites and companies would love that, right? Like it literally gathers them all together in one app. You tap on it, guess what? You're not subscribed. Subscribe now, free trial, whatever you got to do. But yeah, you have to be subscribed to each one individually in order to watch them.
Just where you can rent it, anything.
That's fine
anything,
with me.
Something as a solution.
Yeah.
And do that. I love this app idea, like a centralized location. Do it specifically for the documentaries and the shorts, because in my searching, I was only able to find 1 of the full-length documentaries to rent out of the 5. And the shorts, you get really crappy versions of some of them on like YouTube, but like I can't go to Tucson, Arizona for the short film festival. So how else can I see these and appreciate this work? Like get these people, you're celebrating their work. Let us celebrate it along with you and have favorites to root for. I think the more you reach out and let people engage with this content, the more they're going to appreciate the show.
And to those styles of films specifically, shorts, documentaries that probably don't have necessarily a high level of circulation, unless they're on Netflix or something like that. Honestly, the Oscars and the Academy should think of a solution to get those in front of people so that they can be seen by a larger audience outside of just the voting Academy. So I don't know. There's a lot of ways. I know there's probably a lot of legalities, rights, and all sorts of stuff of who has distribution and so on and so forth. But hey, it's all for the celebration of a year of movies. So I think everyone should, let's all enjoy these movies together.
100%. And I'm sure that the nominees in this next category want as many people to see their work as well. Why don't we look at achievement in directing? The nominees are for Anora, Sean Baker; for The Brutalist, Brady Corbet; for A Complete Unknown, James Mangold; for Emilia Perez, Jacques Audiard; and for The Substance, Coralie Farge.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not like the director's list is like there's only 3 that I really think that stand out in my mind. For the one that I'm going with is Brady Corbet. I think his work in The Brutalist, obviously, it just feels like a true love letter to cinema. You can feel the passion of the art form in every frame as he just blends this idea of like grand storytelling with very intimate personal moments that just highlight what filmmaking is all about. He's creating a very deep cinematic experience with you and as you watch this film. And I think Courbet's direction captures the emotional depth of the characters while celebrating the very experience of cinema. And I think the magic of storytelling, the power of visuals, the impact of sound and music, like we were talking about already. I think it's clear that Courbet's dedication to this craft makes The Brutalist not just a film, but also just a heartfelt journey for him. So it's really a love letter. So I absolutely love it. But I know Sean Baker is a favorite and front runner at the moment. And Nora's been just killing it at the DGA, the PGA, the WGA, the Writers Guild as well.
All the acronyms.
Well, it's taking it's just been taking it on all fronts. And Sean Baker's been getting recognition. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the award, but it's really Courbet's passion that I think is going to translate, hopefully, to the Academy, that will really appreciate his love for cinema and how it's showcased in this film. But I will say, as an upset, I would be very happy to see Coralie Farge win for The Substance. I think her unique approach to suspense and the social commentary of vanity, consumerism, and just the whole idea that we're in an Ozempic era. It would be interesting if she won. That's the upset. That is the upset for sure. I think everyone else, though, just imagine Amelia Perez went for Best Direction. Kevin, you'd probably just look on your face right now.
Speaking of Inside Out too, we got anger in the building here. Oh
Jacques, I don't think Jacques gonna win it. I was surprised that he won it at the Golden Globes, but we'll have to wait and see. But again, all this to say, it's really it's a stacked category, but I feel like it's really going to go in one or two directions.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think seeing all the interviews with Brady Corbet and just him talk about just how much he put into this movie. He was away from his family for 2 years to finish and create this movie, and that takes a lot out of a person, you know what I mean? And so for him to have such a dedication there, from the production side of things, from his direction side of things, like, just, I don't know, it's a movie on a $10 million budget, and it's over 3 hours long. Like, that's not.
And it's shot with VistaVision.
And it's shot with VistaVision. So just, it's the idea of, like, the commitment to all these decisions made really stand out in the overall end product, and the overall film and the art that it is. So yeah, I am going to go with Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. I think he absolutely 100% deserves it, though I could see Sean Baker taking it. I don't know.
Yeah, Sean Baker has a good chance.
Sean Baker recently took home the award from the Directors Guild of America, so I am keeping this short, sweet, boring, and predictable, and I'm going to say he is going to win for Anora.
Wow.
Let's move on to our next nominee for Best Picture, from producers Dede Gardner, Jeremy Kleiner, David Levine, and Jocelyn Barnes, and based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Colson Whitehead, Nickel Boys chronicles the powerful friendship between two young African-American men navigating the harrowing trials of reform school together in Florida. And now the nominees for Actress in a Leading Role. For Wicked, Cynthia Erivo. For Amelia Perez, Carla Sofia Gasson. For Anora, Mikey Madsen. For The Substance, Demi Moore. And for I'm Still Here, Fernanda Torres. Carla Sofia Gasson started off the award season as an unprecedented nominee. Revelations about past online behavior, however, quickly took her out of the conversation, and for those same reasons, she will be removed from this conversation by myself.
Oh, wow.
Cynthia Erivo delivers a powerful, bombastic performance as Alphaba, and her belting out of alone is award-worthy.
Am I the only one that's not going to sing on this one?
Maybe. But I can't see such a prolific award going to somebody in green face paint. I'm sorry to say, and as such, I will be grabbing my broom and sweeping her out of contention as well. I wish I could give an honest opinion on Fernanda's performance, as there's so much buzz around it, but having not seen I'm Still Here, I can only trust that it's magnificent, given her wins at the Gold Derby Awards and at the Golden Globes. After winning the other Best Actress award at the Globes, Demi Moore was the favorite to have one of those classic feel-good Academy Award moments, even if the performance itself relies a bit too heavily on shock value and prosthetics for me to find to find it deserving of a win. However, Mikey Madsen's somewhat surprising win at the BAFTAs ended Moore's impressive streak and could predict our winner here. It's certainly the most traditional performance in terms of relying simply on good old-fashioned acting, and for that reason, I'm going with Madison for the win.
Yeah, I'm going for Demi Moore. I think it's absolutely her time. I think in The Substance, a film that definitely stands out as being one of the more unconventional films of the year. I think Demi's performance is nothing short of transformative, just like the movie talks about. I think her portrayal of a character sort of navigating Hollywood and the emotional terrain that kind of goes with this it's fresh, it's captivating in a lot of ways, and it's so exciting to see Demi take on something that this daring and unexpected, especially when, as she shared, Hollywood has basically written her off. They basically said, you're the best days are done, and it wasn't until this script kind of presented itself that she completely committed to this role. She became, I think, that character to an extreme that is lost and is feeling needs to feel value and understand her place and wants a second chance, if you will. And I think that comes from a very real place for Demi. And I think she's going the distance with it. And I was surprised. I would not have expected her to do something like this. But she commands the screen with the authority of I think, of what a true lead actress is. But in the same breath, I think the same thing can be said about Mickey Madison, who is a close second for Honora. I honestly believe. And this is a film that is on her shoulders because she has to carry it, because it is about her. And she is so incredible in it. I think it could really be, it's between the two of them in my mind. But if I'm going to pick one, it's Demi Moore for Best Actress in the Leading Role.
Cool. It would be awesome if Demi Moore got it. I would be clapping.
I would be clapping.
Right,
I think it's going to be a
alongside
Mickey
you.
Rourke situation though too, right? Like
It's
everyone
possible.
had Mickey Rourke very pegged for the wrestler, and then suddenly
Sean Penn cost me $250 that year. That son of a bitch.
But I think there are elements to that screenplay that actually hinder Demi Moore. There's parts that enhance, and I think the visuals and the makeup and what have you definitely allow her to get into that character even more, and really kind of, for someone like her to perform through prosthetics, it's always an achievement to be able to deliver on the level that she did. But I think there are elements to the overall story and moments in that movie that I think can take away a little bit from that overall performance. I think Cynthia Erivo absolutely is just phenomenal. I'm holding space in my heart for her to win. I think that's what the kids are saying. I think there's some just absolutely stellar moments with her, and just the quietest moments with her, and then also the biggest, loudest moment at the end. But it is Mikey Madison. I think, for the same reason that I love the performances in what I just watched in Sing Sing, Mikey Madison feels like a real person. Like Mikey Madison, she does that so well. She performs so well that I'm like, that's just her. Like I would be shocked if I met her and she didn't talk like that or sound like that. Like she did such a good job portraying that character and crafting that character along with the incredible team that worked on that movie. So I'm going to give it to her as my pick for Best Actress.
I think it's definitely a toss-up between the leading ladies of Honora and The Substance. Speaking of, why don't we move to our next nominee for Best Picture? From producers Coralie Farget, Tim Bevan, and Eric Fellner, The Substance follows a fading celebrity who takes a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. And now the nominees for Actor in a Leading Role. For The Brutalist, Adrian Brody. For A Complete Unknown, Timothée Chalamet. For Sing Sing, Coleman Domingo. For Conclave, Ray Fiennes. And for The Apprentice, Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, this is, again, we're stacked here. I keep saying it, but it's true. Like all of these gentlemen, I'm happy that I got to watch all of their performances. I think Coleman Domingo was so good in Sing Sing. And again, even though I think what I just mentioned about the whole aspect of like seeing some of these performers and these performances in that movie and making it feel like a documentary, even though seeing him and knowing it's Coleman Domingo at times pulled me out a little bit. It's the way that he's able to work off of those performances that just makes him stand out so much. And again, I cried my eyeballs out. Rafe Fiennes, is it Rafe Fiennes or Ralph Fiennes? Can we just confirm it here?
Ray Fiennes.
It's Rafe Fiennes. Okay.
Or Ralphie Ennis, whatever you want to go with.
Ralphie Ennis. I thought he was great in Conclave, and he just, I think he helps. Like, again, it was another moment where I'm like, I want to see this guy in whatever he has to do, in whatever decision he's making. I want to see him succeed. Sebastian Stan and Timothée Chalamet both did an incredible job performing as Donald Trump and Bob Dylan without it ever feeling like it's an impression, right? It's them. They became those people. And I was saying this to you, Kevin, as we left the movie of A Complete Unknown, in that they feel like they become the characters the further and further you get into that movie, even more. And by the end of that movie with Donald Trump, with Sebastian Stan, him doing like the ticks and the lip movements and everything, I was like, get this guy off the screen. I've seen him enough on the news. I don't need to see this. Reminding me of all the tariffs and what have you. But you know, I think the choice for me as best actor in a leading role is going to go to Adrian Brody in The Brutalist. I think, again, it's a 3-hour movie, but I wanted to follow him for as long as I possibly could in that movie. I think he puts on a clinic of a performance. He gives every emotion that's there on the page, and I especially for the dialogue that he has to deliver, and this entire cast has to deliver, but the dialogue that he has to deliver, the way that he's able to make it sound so natural and fluid and real. You know, I think it's just, again, Brady Corbet in an interview said that the writing is dense. And so, yeah, for him to become Laszlo Toth, it's so impressive. And I think you just have to have such a real passion for your craft to be able to pull off a role like that. And you can see that. Adrian Brody is going to be my pick for actor in a leading role.
Yeah, he's my pick as well. I think Adrian Brody's performance in The Brutalist is nothing short of incredible. I think he brings to life an artist searching for recognition, and it's both beautiful and tragic. And I think Brody nails the complexities of a man struggling with self-doubt while also chasing success in America. He's quiet and vulnerable. He brings so much depth to a character without even sometimes saying anything. It's just the way as we've talked about in other podcasts, like the way his eyes act. And I think you're on this emotional journey with him, and it just feels real. It feels powerful. I think Brody just he perfectly balances the pain of ambition with moments of hope. And yeah, it's one of the best of the year, and he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys said it. This is an absolutely phenomenal lineup of acting performances. I would be fine with any of them winning here. Like you said, Nate, Chalamet and Stan deliver incredibly nuanced impressions of iconic figures without ever verging too close to caricature work or parody. Coleman MFing Domingo is brilliant as the thespian prisoner and brings so much to his character to make John Whitfield feel as real as possible. And my guy, Ray Fiennes, is his usual incredible self. I could literally watch that guy read the ingredients off the side of his cereal box and be entertained. But like you said, Adrian Brody brings the kind of sweeping, grand-scale performance that asks so much of an actor and that the Academy absolutely loves. Plus, he's been cleaning up this awards season. This one is a no-brainer. Why don't we move on to our final nominee for Best Picture? From producers Mark Platt and David Stone, Wicked tells the story of Elphaba, a misunderstood young woman because of her green skin, and Galinda, a popular girl who becomes friends at Shiz University in the land of Oz. After an encounter with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, their friendship reaches a crossroad. And now I know we've talked a lot about these films throughout the podcast, but we'll move into Best Picture. I'll quickly go over the nominees again, and then I think we can talk about anything we might have missed in our previous discussions, maybe what you want to win, and then what you think is going to win. But yes, once again, here are the nominees for Best Picture. Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked.
Oh man, this is, like there's a lot on this list that I don't think needs to be here. In all honesty, this could have been a list of 5 versus 10, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And there are I always think of films that, like, from a Best Picture that left me with something, right? And the substance is definitely on there. I know it's a really out there concept, but I think its approach, it's very, body horror with a message that obviously feels extreme, but it also feels Tarantino-esque at times as well, with its sort of absurdity at moments. So I think there's more of a purpose to that. Then it left me with something. It left me feeling something, obviously not the best and uneasy. But I think the same thing could be said about Nickel Boys, which just it stands out with a unique perspective. That first person point of view, it just pulls you into the character of Elwood Curtis, and it's really interesting how not seeing your character and you looking through those eyes, it really changes the perspective of the story. Naturally, of course, but how much it changes in those moments. I think that approach really lets you feel what he feels, sees the world through his eyes, which also in a lot of ways just makes the story so much more personal and powerful. And instead of just showing you the harsh realities of reform school, it is from a new perspective. It lets you live those moments. It lets you live the pain, and the hope, the injustice. You see it all. And I think that really does put the audience in a new perspective that is so much different from before, and it just establishes a deeper connection. So from aesthetical standpoint, that marriage of making that choice to telling that story, it was so well done. But I got to go for best picture. I am choosing The Brutalist. Again, I've talked about it so much. The film it really does bring everything together, from outstanding performances, Adrian Brody specifically, to just great visuals. The use of VistaVision, I think, is just it's so impactful. It captures that grand architecture. It gives you intimate moments. It's incredible. It's got incredible clarity and depth. The picture quality is just unreal. But I think overall, I think it's the direction that feels like, again, it's just a true love letter to cinema. It highlights the passion of and heartbreak of the creative process. And I think, which again, Brady Corbet is on that same journey with this film. He's very much the main character as well, doing it in a different way. And yeah, I think it deserves to win Best Picture because of its artistic vision and what it achieves from that standpoint. And I know Anora is thinking, I'm gonna have a hot take here. Anora is a good movie. It's a good movie. But it's really driven by an outstanding performance from Mickey Madison. I really don't understand why this movie's getting all this recognition and love for like writing, directing, and Best Picture. I really don't. I don't understand it. However, I think that this is a movie that should be celebrated for Mickey Madison because she really brings this story to life, and the character of Honora. I don't know. I'm wondering how you guys feel.
I mean, I think there's a final scene in Honora that I'll never forget, and I think that it's a moment that it like I said, it challenges you and hits you in a way that you maybe aren't expecting, maybe didn't want, but it happens. And I think it's, I don't know, I still think about that movie given all the other movies that I've watched since that are on this list. I would have loved to have seen Sing Sing in place of Amelia Perez, to be perfectly honest. Again, I've not seen Amelia Perez. I'll make that completely clear. So maybe that's not the most fair assessment, but everything that I've heard about that film from people that are film people, from people that aren't film people, is that it's not good, and that there's a lot of aspects about it that are offensive to the different groups that it is meant to be representing.
Out of touch.
And so it's unfortunate, but I really do think Sing Sing should have been there after seeing it today. I think my overall favorite film of this list, maybe it's just because I'm a huge sci-fi geek, but it's Dune Part 2. I came out of that movie just in utter awe. It is an epic. It is a fantastic sequel. It's one of my favorite sequels of all time. But I am also going to go with The Brutalist as my pick for Best Picture. I do think it will win. I think it's deserved of winning. I really do. Everything we've said about it, I think the biggest thing that comes to mind when I keep looking back at that movie and its long run time and its aesthetic and its design and the way the credits go on a different angle and all these different choices, it all comes back to intention. And do they nail that intention? And we bring that up a lot on this podcast. And when we talk about TV shows and films, are they achieving what they set out to do? And I think The Brutalist does that in spades. I think there is every single element of it that it says we're doing this. It does it. And so I think they absolutely nailed it. I think it deserves Best Picture. So I'm going to go with The Brutalist. Kevin.
I'm just going to start by saying I want to see Emilia Perez get the Turning Point and Color Purple treatment. Those films were nominated for 11 awards and went home completely empty-handed, even though they're both substantially better movies and definitely deserved some love. That is not the case for Emilia Perez. Much like Wicked, they weren't even the best musicals of the year. I'm sorry, but Better Man kicked ass, man. That movie was wicked. And so if you're going to put musicals in here, let's get the best one of the year. But no, I digress. I do agree with what you said earlier, Just. It does feel like there's tiers here. There's maybe 6 movies that truly belong here and 4 others that probably don't and could be replaced with better movies that I watched through the nomination process and just, in theaters or whatnot on my own time. So there are a few disappointing nominations here, but for the most part, I really enjoyed all of these. Everything you guys said right now about the Brutalist and throughout the program are spot on. It's an incredible achievement in film, but I think sometimes less is more, and I think you can pack as much as you want into a 3-hour and 20-minute movie and have incredible stars and this sweeping epic story, but sometimes a simple human story is all it takes to connect with an audience. And I think of these films, in terms of the favorites to win, Anora, I think just connected with me a bit more, and I think we're going to see it win more awards than you might think throughout the night, and oftentimes the movie that picks up the occasional award throughout the evening gets the nod for Best Picture. And so I'm going to go a little bit different than you guys. We'll see if it pays off or not. Listen, I'm not going to get 12 out of 13 right here because I purposely wouldn't choose Emilia Perez no matter what. So I'm going to continue going on just my heartstrings and the gut instinct. Sure. I'm going with Anora.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's all you can do, especially because this is just a fun game, right? To see how much we
This really is not a fun game, Justin. We need to take him down. What are you talking about? We need to be singing "Ding Dong, the King is Dead." See, I told you I would sing. I got a song.
Yeah, but last year he won the thing that didn't make him money, and I won the thing that made him money.
That's true. You did win the thing.
So there you go. But at the end of the day, again, I think you vote with your heart. You vote with what you want to see. I think it's a little bit of statistical stuff as well. But yeah, I think this is really going to be up to The Brutalist and Anora. I threw Nickel Boys in there because I would like to see it get some love. And I think that would be like a huge upset if like everyone's pegging and looking at Brutalist and Anora, but then Nickel Boys comes in and takes it, right? But I need to see Sing Sing, so I will definitely be watching that this weekend in preparation.
I think you're right, Just, that Anora and Brutalist are right up there as the top 2 favorites. I think if anything comes out of nowhere and surprises people, it's going to be The Substance, and it's going to be the Academy just going batshit crazy and doing something that nobody ever thought them capable of doing.
That would be batshit crazy. I would be shocked.
Pretty crazy.
I wouldn't. I'd be like, I would just wouldn't know what to say.
Like, what 85-year-old actor are they going to get up there to read the envelope this year? Just be like, The Substance. That was disgusting.
They're melting as they're saying it. Like, wait a minute.
But it should be interesting, and I look forward to seeing who takes the crown this year. Well, I think it's time we go celebrate at the after party, as that's another one in the bag. This was our Academy Awards preview show. Thanks for tuning in wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and leave us an award-winning review. We'd love to have our names read from an envelope and to accept an award for our hard work one day. As always, reach out and say hi and let us know who you'll be rooting for at this year's Academy Awards, and who do you think guessed the most correct winners. You can let us know at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or if that's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or if that feels a bit too much like being forced to watch Emilia Perez again and you're still trying to figure out how it's even nominated for Best Picture while other worthy movies like A Real Pain and September 5th weren't, hit us up on the socials. Justin, where can they do that?
Well, they can reach us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram and TikTok at wearegeekcentric.
Be sure to tune in next week where we will reveal who won our annual competition as well as who won all the major awards at the 97th Annual Academy Awards. We can't wait to discuss our favorite winners, our biggest disappointments, and the inevitable surprise or two of the night. Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies, TV shows, and more, such as our coverage for Captain America Brave New World, which includes our spoiler-free review and interviews with some of the cast and crew of the film, including Giancarlo Esposito, plus other spoiler-free reviews for the first 6 episodes of Invincible Season 3, Ke Huy Quan's Action Romance Love Hurts, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Mythic Quest Season 4, and Severance Season 2. On top of that, we have some terrific interviews for some of those fantastic shows. Join us on Wednesday when we talk to Jessica Lee Gagne, the director of photography for Severance and the director of this week's upcoming Episode 7. Plus, we recently had a chance to sit down to chat with some of the cast and the series showrunner for Mythic Quest, which is available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric, along with all of our awesome content. We also recently attended the Toronto screening for Netflix's What's Next, where they showcased just a taste of what we should expect from the streamer in 2025, and there is just so much more on the horizon, including our coverage for Daredevil Born Again, which will be coming your way soon. But until next time, Justin, Nate, thank you for joining me. And as the envelope says...
And the winner of Best Goodbye is me. Love
Get home safe, guys.
Peace.